Hello everyone! Into a Dream's development is going forward quite nicely, and as I am approaching the completion of the final levels, I have also started to improve the weaknesses of the game, based on what I've learned in this 6-month span, as well as with feedback that people had been giving me when playing the alpha release. Aside from the development itself, I have started the dialogue system tutorial series here on YouTube, that will cover the basics of importing dialogue from a simple to read and write file, to triggering it, and adding options and branching, so go check it out. As for the development of Into a Dream, this week and a half was divided into 6 main tasks. First and foremost, the biggest of them all was the improvement of the dialogue system and interaction icons. One common complaint among testers was the fact that the dialogue was hard to read, and it contrasted a lot with the surroundings, both in style, but also in the way that the text was animated, which was basically one character at a time typing. I discussed a few ideas with some friends, and eventually came the idea of adding a cloud as a dialogue box, in the context of dreams, so I tested it out. I created a cloud-shaped dialogue box with a certain level of transparency, reformulated part of the dialogue system, adding fade in or out of the cloud box, and also a resize function, to better match the size of the cloud to the actual size of the written text. Secondly, I searched for ways to fade the text in, instead of typing it letter by letter, which many people found it quite hard, contrasting to the softness of the surroundings. I found a great script for Text Mesh Pro that did just that. I just needed to make a few tweaks to it, and here is the final result, with both things combined. I was pretty happy with the final result. Finally, I also redid the design for the observation and talk icons, which were also in a very different style than its surroundings. I ended up maintaining the shape of the talk icon, but in a single semi-transparent color, and added a little animation to it. The observation icon was totally redesigned to these 3 rotating circles. What do you think compared to the old Chalk and Eye versions? The second important task was a main character redesign. Character design and its animations are one of my weakest points, mainly when considering that I've chosen normal proportions human-like characters. I think the character will still be tweaked, but there were 3 major issues with it. Firstly, he appeared much younger than what he should be. Secondly, compared to the other characters, his outline was too straight, giving the feeling that the character was not properly dressed when compared to the others. And thirdly, character joints were really unoptimized and rough, meaning that on certain animations, you could spot a very distinct discontinuity between leg and thigh, for example. Most of these 3 issues have now been solved. The character may still need to appear a little older, and a few animations such as the run animation must be tweaked, but I'm much happier with the current look. And now a little bit more about music. The musical style of the game is somewhat simple, being very melodical, soothing, and always relying heavily on piano. There is a point in the game, however, where I needed to create a wedding march for string quartet. And I've been using an old composition of mine for it, that people didn't think it was quite right for the moment, that it was not festive enough. I sat at a piano and came up with this very simple but happier tune. It's still a draft, but please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it. Also, when the character goes through the deeper dreams/nightmares, I wanted the piano to be overtook by some darker music, and so came up with this track. I thought it might be too heavy compared to the rest of the game, but when I heard it on the scene I wanted it to play in, I really enjoyed it, and changed its energy entirely. I did a lot of dialogue review as well, going through all the little details such as character mannerisms, personalities, etc., but won't talk much about it. Recordings for voice acting are planned to happen in mid-October, and that must be the last major element of the game's development, prior to testing, bug fixing, adding details, and so on. At last, I began doing also some design improvement to the scenery. There were some scenes that always felt a little bland. Well, there's one thing that really helps a scene pop out a little bit more, and that's water. I really like the water shader I've made earlier in the process, and I tried to use a little more, and it actually makes the style of the sceneries converge a little bit. Here are some of the scenes now, with some water close to the foreground. It was a very intense week, but with some very positive results. Next week will be mostly dedicated to finishing the final level and reviewing all written dialogues, and, as I said before, start to shift my focus to marketing. That being said, please go check my Facebook, IndieDB, Discord server or Patreon. The links are all below. As usual, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, click the bell notification, share, you know it. All support is incredibly appreciated. Thank you so much, and see you next time. Have a wonderful week. Ciao!